3 weeks had passed since first contact. The human fleet remained in Voron space, but the mood had changed completely. There were no more demands for surrender, no more threats. Instead, there were ceremonies and celebrations and endless diplomatic meetings. Emperor Thulaxis had made his decision. The Voron High Council had agreed. Now the formal announcement was being made to both species. Captain Taiho stood in the grand hall of the Eternal Radiance, surrounded by his crew. Across from him, the entire Voron leadership had assembled. Thousands of crystalline lights illuminated the space, and soft music played from hidden speakers. Thulaxis raised his long arms for silence. Today marks a new chapter in the history of our empire. For 10,000 years, the Voron have stood alone. We believed ourselves to be the masters of this region of space. We believed our civilization to be the greatest in the galaxy. He paused, and his 6 eyes found the human delegation. We were wrong. A murmur went through the Voron crowd. Such an admission from an emperor was unprecedented. The humans have shown us that the universe is larger and more dangerous than we ever imagined. They have shown us that our weapons are toys. Our armies are decorations. Our strength is an illusion. Thulaxis descended from his platform and walked toward Taiho. Each step was slow and deliberate. But they have also shown us something else. They have shown us mercy, understanding, patience. They could have destroyed us. They chose not to. They could have conquered us. They offered friendship instead. He stood before Taiho and bowed deeply. For a Voron emperor to bow to anyone was unthinkable. The crowd gasped. Therefore, I formally request that humanity become the protectors of the Voron Empire. I ask that Captain Taiho accept the honorary title of Admiral in our fleet. I ask that our 2 peoples become not just allies, but family. Taiho was quiet for a moment. He looked at his crew. Yuna stood straight and proud. Dohan watched the crowd with careful eyes. Wujin was grinning like a child. Dr. Hannah had tears in her eyes. Emperor Thulaxis, Taiho said finally, humanity accepts your offer. We will protect the Voron as we protect ourselves. We will share our knowledge, our strength, and our friendship. But more than that, we will learn from you. Thulaxis looked surprised. Learn from us? What can we possibly teach you? Taiho smiled. You have built a civilization of art and beauty. You have created peace that lasted 10,000 years. You have found ways to resolve conflicts without bloodshed. These are things humanity has struggled with since our beginning. We can learn much from you. The crowd was silent. Then, slowly, applause began. It grew louder and louder until the entire hall was filled with sound. The days that followed were busy. Humans and Voron worked together on 100 different projects. Chief Engineer Wujin started a class on human technology. His first lesson was about armor plating. You see, he explained to a group of fascinated Voron engineers, the idea is that the outside of your ship should be very hard to damage. This keeps the inside safe. A young Voron raised her hand. But hard materials are so ugly. They do not reflect light beautifully. Wujin considered this. What if we make the armor plates shiny? Would that help? The young Voron brightened. Shiny armor? That could work. By the end of the week, the Voron engineers were designing ships with armored hulls that sparkled like diamonds. It was not practical, but it was a start. Security Chief Doan began teaching self-defense classes. He had to modify his approach significantly. Okay, he said to his first group of Voron students. We will start with basic blocking. Watch me. He demonstrated a simple defensive move. The Voron copied him, more or less. Good. Now, I'm going to throw a gentle punch. Just block it like I showed you. He threw the softest punch of his life. The Voron student screamed and fell over. Too hard? Doan asked. My arm, the student moaned. You touched my arm. It hurts. Dolan looked at the ceiling and counted to 10. This was going to take a while. After the first session, 12 Varan were sent to medical care. Dr. Hannah had to explain that bruises were not life-threatening injuries. The Varan students were amazed and terrified to learn that humans consider bruises normal. Speaking of Dr. Hannah, she had opened a clinic aboard the Varan flagship. Word spread quickly about her miraculous abilities. She can close wounds with thread, one Varan told. Another, I heard she can put broken bones back together. She once put her hands inside a patient's body and fixed something that was wrong inside. The Varan came to her clinic in increasing numbers. Most of them had minor complaints, headaches, tired muscles, the kind of things their crystal healers could handle just fine. But Hannah took each patient seriously. She showed them how to check their own vital signs. She explained how diseases worked and how to prevent them. She taught them about nutrition and exercise and the importance of clean water. The Varan medical establishment was initially offended. Their traditional healing methods were being questioned. But as they watched Hannah work, as they saw her results, their offense turned to curiosity, and their curiosity turned to admiration. Dr. Hannah, one Varan healer said, your methods are strange. Disturbing, even. But they work. They truly work. Hannah smiled gently. Medicine is not about what feels good. It is about what helps the patient. Sometimes the cure is uncomfortable, but discomfort is better than death. The healer nodded slowly. I think I understand. Will you teach me? Of course. That is why I am here. Lieutenant Yuna spent her days in meetings with Varan military commanders. She tried to explain human tactical thinking without terrifying them too badly. The basic principle, she said, is that you want to avoid a fair fight. Lord Venix looked confused. Avoid a fair fight? But honor demands that both sides have equal chances. In human military thinking, if both sides have equal chances, you have already made a mistake. You want to win before the fight even starts. Superior position, superior numbers, superior weapons. Never give the enemy a chance if you can help it. Lord Venix was quiet for a long moment. This is very different from our philosophy. I know. Our philosophy was formed by necessity. When you fight for survival, you cannot afford honor. That sounds sad. Yuna considered this. Perhaps it is. But we survived. And now we are here, helping you learn to survive as well. Lord Venix looked at her with new respect. You humans are complicated creatures. We are, Yuna agreed. But we are loyal to our friends. On the last day before the human fleet departed, Emperor Thulaxis requested a private audience with Captain Taiho. They met on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Captain, Thulaxis said softly, in all our history, we never imagined beings like your species. You laugh at danger. You survive things that would destroy us. You treat war as a phase you went through. How do you do it? Taiho thought about the question carefully. We learned to survive each other first, Emperor. Humans spent thousands of years fighting other humans. Every possible weapon. Every possible strategy. Every possible horror. When we finally looked up at the stars, everything else seemed manageable. Thulaxis shook his head slowly. The galaxy is about to become a very different place. It always does, Taiho replied. Nothing stays the same forever. The universe is change. The only question is whether you change with it or get left behind. And humans? What do you do? Taiho smiled. We adapt. We survive. We make friends with the people we could have destroyed. And then we move on to the next challenge. The human fleet departed the next morning. The Varan watched them go with a mixture of relief and regret. These strange, violent, wonderful creatures had changed everything in just a few weeks. Admiral, Sun Wu sent a final message before jumping to the next system. "Thank you for your hospitality, Emperor Thalaxis. We will return. And next time, we will bring more ships, more people, and more opportunities for both our peoples." Thalaxis watched the human ships disappear into the distance. He thought about the future. A future where humans and Varan worked together. Where human strength protected Varan beauty. Where Varan wisdom tempered human aggression. It was a strange future. An uncertain future. But for the first time in his long reign, Thalaxis felt something he had never felt before. Hope. True hope. Hope based not on the fragile piece of ignorance, but on the solid foundation of real friendship with the strangest, most terrifying, most wonderful species the galaxy had ever known. Humanity had not conquered the Varan Empire. They had done something far more remarkable. They had given it a reason to grow. The Varan High Council gathered in secret that night. The meeting room was hidden deep inside the flagship, far from the human guests. Around the crystal table sat the most powerful leaders of the Empire. Emperor Thalaxis sat at the head, his 6 eyes troubled. "We must discuss what we have learned," Thalaxis said quietly. "The humans have provided us with cultural files, history, information about their species. I have read some of it." He paused. His hands were shaking. I could not finish. Lord Venix, the military commander, leaned forward. "What did you find, my emperor?" Thalaxis gestured to an aide. The aide activated a display screen. Images appeared. Documents. Historical records. "Humans have existed as a civilization for only about 10,000 years," Thalaxis began. "A young species by our standards. But in that time," he stopped, swallowed, continued. "In that time, they have had over 15,000 wars." The council members murmured in shock. 15,000? Lady Mirax whispered. "That cannot be correct." "It is correct. I had our scholars verify the data 3 times. Thalaxis waved his hand, and new images appeared. They developed weapons specifically designed to kill large numbers of their own kind. Bombs that poison the air. Chemicals that burn skin. Diseases created in laboratories. Lord Venix studied the images. They used these weapons. Against each other? Against each other. Against their own species. They had what they call world wars. Conflicts so large that entire continents were involved. Millions of deaths. Millions. The room was silent. On the Varan homeworld, the largest conflict in history had killed 200 people. It was remembered as a great tragedy, discussed in sad voices for generations. Millions was a number they could not process. The aide changed the images again. Now the screen showed human weapons. Not the modern ones from the Starbreaker, but historical ones. Early weapons, Thalaxis explained. Swords, spears, devices for cutting and stabbing living flesh. They spent thousands of years perfecting ways to kill at close range. Close range, Lord Venix repeated. He remembered the human security chief asking about hand-to-hand combat. Now he understood why. Then they developed guns. Devices that throw metal at high speed to pierce bodies. Then explosives. Then chemical weapons. Then nuclear bombs. Thalaxis' voice was getting higher with each word. Nuclear bombs. Do you know what those are? They split atoms. They create explosions like small suns. They poison the land for generations. Lady Mirax was crying. Soft, quiet tears running down her blue face. And the worst part, Thalaxis continued, is that they use these nuclear bombs on themselves, on cities full of their own kind. Hundreds of thousands died in moments. and it was not considered unusual. It was considered strategy. The council sat in horrified silence. One of the historians, an old scholar named Torlax, raised a trembling hand. Emperor, I studied their military records. The ships they have sent here, the ones they call an exploration fleet, yes? They are not exploration vessels. They are warships. Old warships. Ships built for something the humans call the Outer Colony Rebellion. Thalaxis felt cold. Warships? All of them? All of them. And not even their best warships. According to their records, the Starbreaker is classified as a... Torlax checked his notes. A patrol cruiser, mid-tier, built for minor conflicts. Minor conflicts. Yes, their actual warships are much larger, much more powerful. Lord Venix stood up suddenly. We surrounded them with our entire fleet. We threatened them with destruction. Yes, Lord Venix. And they were flying old patrol cruisers. Ships they consider small. And those ships could destroy our entire armada without effort. No one responded. No one needed to. Delaxis looked at the historical files again. He saw images of human soldiers. Men and women with hard faces and cold eyes. They carried weapons easily, naturally, as if born with them in their hands. There is more, the historian said reluctantly. Their captain Taiho, I researched his record, and he served in something called the Asian Pacific Defense Force for 20 years. He participated in several conflicts. He has personally killed people, multiple people. In combat, the council members gasped. Among the Varan, killing was almost unknown. Their soldiers had never taken a life. Their entire military existed for ceremony and show. All of them, Torlax continued. Every single human on those ships has combat training. Even their doctors. Even their engineers. They are all trained to fight. To kill. Dolaxis finally understood. They had not encountered explorers. They had not encountered diplomats. They had encountered warriors, a species that had been at war since the beginning of their existence. A species that had perfected violence like the Varan had perfected art. Contact the human admiral, Dulaxis ordered. His voice sounded weak even to himself. I must speak with their fleet commander. Now. Admiral Sunwoo received the transmission in his office aboard the UESS Guardian. He was an older man, calm and patient, with a face that showed wisdom earned through hard experience. Emperor Thalaxis, he said pleasantly. It is an honor. Thulaxis appeared on the screen. He looked smaller somehow, older, afraid. Admiral Sunwoo, I must ask you directly, honestly, are you planning to conquer our galaxy? Sunwoo blinked in surprise. Then he laughed. It was a warm laugh, genuine and kind. No, Emperor. We are explorers. We came in peace, truly. Dulaxis pressed forward. But your weapons, your history, your violence, you are clearly capable of conquering us, of destroying everything we have built. Sunwoo's smile faded slightly. Capability and intention are different things, Emperor. Yes, we could cause great destruction. We have done so in the past. But we have also learned from our mistakes. We are trying to be better. Trying to be better? Humans are complicated. We have done terrible things to each other. We have also done beautiful things. We build and destroy. We hate and love. We are always struggling between our worst instincts and our best hopes. Communications Officer Bora appeared behind the Admiral. She was a young woman with a bright smile. She leaned into the frame. What the Admiral is trying to say, Emperor, is that we came in peace because we chose to. You should be happy about that. Thalaxis frowned. Why should that make me happy? Bora's smile widened. but something in her eyes became sharper. Because when humans choose war instead of peace, things get very unpleasant. You have only seen what we do when we are being friendly? You definitely do not want to see what we do to people we actually do not like. The transmission ended. Thulaxis sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Lord Venix spoke. "What do we do, Emperor?" Thulaxis thought about 10,000 years of Varan civilization. Their beautiful ships. Their peaceful society. Their belief that the galaxy was a safe and ordered place. All of that was an illusion. The galaxy was not safe. It had never been safe. They had simply been lucky. Lucky that no predator species had found them dead until now. But these predators were offering friendship instead of violence. They were choosing peace when they could choose conquest. That was something. That was actually remarkable. "We do the only sensible thing," Thulaxis said finally. "We make them our allies. We stay close to them. We make ourselves valuable to them." He paused. "And we pray to every god we have that they never change their minds about peace." The council nodded in silent agreement. In 10,000 years of empire, this was the first moment the Varan truly understood their place in the universe. They were not the rulers. They were merely the ones who had been allowed to survive. Emperor Thulaxis invited the humans aboard his flagship, the Eternal Radiance. It was meant to impress them. It did impress them, but not in the way Thulaxis expected. The ship was enormous. Its corridors were wide enough for 20 people to walk side by side. The walls were made of polished crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Every corner had sculptures. Every ceiling had paintings. The floors were covered in soft fabric that felt like walking on clouds. Captain Taiho led the human delegation through these magnificent halls. With him came Lieutenant Yuna, Security Chief Dohan, and Dr. Hana. They walked in respectful silence, but their eyes kept meeting, sharing the same unspoken thought. This was not a warship. This was a palace. Thulaxis walked ahead of them, pointing out the many wonders of his vessel. "This section contains our meditation gardens. Over there is our music hall. The crew can relax here after their duties." Dohan leaned toward Yuna. "Where are the weapon stations?" "I have not seen any," Yuna replied quietly. "Where is the armor plating?" "I do not think there is any." Dohan's face was blank, but his eyes showed deep confusion. On human ships, every corridor was narrow to prevent invaders from moving easily. Every wall had emergency weapons stored behind panels. Every crew member knew how to fight here. The Varan crew members drifted past in their silk robes, smiling peacefully. Some were playing musical instruments. Others were reading poetry. One was painting a picture of a flower. "This is the bridge," Thulaxis announced, opening a grand door. The bridge was breathtaking. A huge dome of transparent crystal allowed a perfect view of space in every direction. The command chairs were covered in gold fabric. The control panels were works of art, with buttons made of precious gems, and the weapons officer was asleep at his station. Dohan stared. He blinked several times. The weapons officer continued to snore softly, his head resting on his decorated console. "Excellent discipline," Dohan said, his voice completely flat. Thulaxis did not seem to notice anything wrong. "Now, let me show you our military might. Our guards are the finest warriors in the galaxy." He clapped his hands, and a group of Varan guards marched in. They moved in perfect formation, their steps matching exactly. Their armor sparkled. Their weapons gleamed, but Dohan was watching their movements, their muscles, their balance. "May I examine one of your weapons, Emperor?" he asked politely. Thulaxis looked pleased. "Of course. Guard, give the human your weapon." A guard handed over his ceremonial staff. It was beautiful, covered in gold and silver patterns. Gems decorated its length. Dohan held it carefully. How does it fire? The guard showed him. A small button on the side. Dohan pressed it, and a weak blue light shot from the tip. It hit a wall and left a small scorch mark. Impressive, Dohan said. His face showed nothing. What about close combat? How do you use this in hand-to-hand fighting? The guards looked confused. Hand-to-hand? Yes, when the enemy gets close. How do you strike? How do you block? The guards looked at each other nervously. We do not fight close. It is not civilized. Dohan was quiet for a long moment. Then he handed the weapon back. Thank you. Very educational. Yuna had moved to speak with a Varan officer. She asked about their military training. The officer was happy to explain. Training takes 3 years, he said proudly. We learn the ancient forms of combat, the traditional dances of war, the poetry of battle. Poetry? Yuna asked. Yes. Before every engagement, both sides recite poetry to each other. It shows honor and respect. The side with the most beautiful poetry usually wins. Yuna was silent for 5 full seconds. And if both sides have equally beautiful poetry, then we have a dance competition. A dance competition. Yes, it is very exciting. Yuna excused herself. She walked to a quiet corner and stood facing the wall for about a minute. Her shoulders shook slightly. When she returned, her face was perfectly calm again. Dr. Hannah had found the medical bay. She was fascinated and horrified in equal measure. You see, the Voran doctor explained, we treat all injuries with healing crystals. The crystals channel positive energy into the body. Do they work? Hannah asked. They make the patient feel more peaceful. But do they heal the injury? They heal the spirit. The body follows. Hannah looked at the medical equipment. It was all crystals and soft lights. There were no surgical tools. No emergency equipment. No blood supplies. What do you do for serious injuries? She asked. Broken bones? Internal bleeding? The Voran doctor looked uncomfortable. Such things are very rare. Our society is peaceful, but when they happen, we use more crystals. Hannah thought about human hospitals, the sterile operating rooms, the teams of surgeons who could open a body and repair the damage inside, the blood banks, the emergency procedures practiced 1,000 times. Have you ever performed surgery? She asked carefully. The Varan doctor turned pale. Surgery? You mean cutting open a living body? Yes, that is. That is barbaric. Only monsters would cut open a living being. Hannah thought about the hundreds of surgeries she had performed, the lives she had saved by cutting into flesh and fixing what was broken inside. I see, she said softly. The very idea makes me sick, the Voran doctor continued. Imagine putting a knife to living flesh. It is the work of savages. Hannah smiled politely. Of course. Very savage. She did not mention that she had once performed an emergency amputation during a battle, with explosions happening around her and only basic tools available. The soldier had lived. He had later sent her flowers and a thank you card. The cultural exchange continued. Thulaxis showed them the imperial prison, where the worst criminals of the Voran Empire were held. This criminal attacked a government official with harsh words. Thulaxis explained, pointing to a cell. He has been in isolation for 2 days. A terrible punishment. 2 days, Taiho repeated. Yes, the maximum sentence is 3 days. After that, we consider the criminal rehabilitated. Yuna was making a strange noise. It might have been a cough. What are your prisons like? Thulaxis asked curiously. Taiho thought about Earth's prisons. The concrete cells. The barbed wire. The prisoners who spent years, sometimes decades, behind bars. Different, he said simply. Very different. That evening, there was a grand feast. The humans sat at a long table with the Varan leadership. The food was strange, but delicious. The drinks were sweet and mild. Dohan mentioned, almost casually, that humans had a sport called football. The goal is to carry a ball across a field, he explained. The other team tries to stop you. Physically? Physically? A Varan lord asked. Yes, they tackle you. Knock you down? Sometimes bones are broken. The table went silent. Broken bones? Thulaxis whispered. In a game? Yes, it is very popular. Millions of people watch. And this is entertainment? Doan shrugged. Humans like competition. One of the Voran ladies covered her mouth. But surely the players are punished for causing such injuries. No, they are celebrated. The best tacklers become famous. 3 Voran nobles had to leave the table. They looked pale and unsteady. Later, Hana casually mentioned battlefield medicine. She described how human doctors learn to operate in war zones, sometimes performing surgery while under enemy fire. You cut open wounded soldiers, Thulaxis said slowly, while being attacked? Yes, time is important in such situations. And if the soldier's arm is destroyed beyond repair? Hannah paused. We remove it. Give them a mechanical replacement later. Emperor Thulaxis stood up suddenly. I need air, he announced. He walked out of the dining hall at high speed. Teho watched him go. Perhaps we shared too much. Yuna took a drink. Or perhaps just enough. They need to understand what we are. Wujin, who had come for the feast, nodded in agreement. Better they learn at dinner than in battle. The feast continued, but the mood had changed. The Voran no longer looked at the humans with superiority. They looked at them with something new. It was the beginning of understanding. And the beginning of fear. The meeting took place on neutral ground. A small moon between the human fleet and the Voran armada. Both sides sent shuttles, and both sides came with guards. But even the guards showed how different these two civilizations were. The Voran guards wore golden armor that sparkled in the light. Their helmets had feathers made of precious metals. Their weapons were long staffs covered in beautiful carvings. They walked with perfect posture, like dancers in a royal ballet. The human guards wore plain gray combat armor. It was scratched and dented from years of use. Their weapons were simple black rifles that looked like they had been through many battles. They walked like soldiers, always watching, always ready. Dawan, the human security chief, studied the Varan guards with careful eyes. He noticed how they held their pretty staffs. He noticed how they stood. He noticed how their armor had no padding for impact. He said nothing, but his eyebrows went up slightly. Captain Taiho stepped forward to greet Emperor Thulaxis. The alien ruler was even more impressive in person. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. His 6 eyes moved independently, watching everything at once. Welcome, human captain, Thulaxis said. His voice echoed in the empty chamber. I see you have come to accept our generous offer of surrender. Taiho smiled politely. We have come to discuss peace, great emperor. Peace comes after surrender, Yuna whispered from behind Taiho. He really does not understand, does he? Taiho ignored her. Perhaps we can begin with a demonstration of good faith. A cultural exchange. We show you something. You show us something. Thulaxis seemed interested. What kind of demonstration? Perhaps your technology? Your weapons? We are very curious about the famous Voran military power. The Emperor's 6 eyes brightened with pride. Yes, this is acceptable. We will show you the might of our empire. Then you will understand why resistance is foolish. He clapped his long hands together, and his advisors rushed to prepare. Within minutes, The Voron had set up a viewing platform. Below them, in the darkness of space, floated a small asteroid. It was about the size of a house. "Observe," Thulaxis announced proudly. "Our most powerful weapon, the Stellar Lance." A Voron warship moved into position. It was beautiful, of course, curved and graceful, covered in lights. On its underside, a large crystal began to glow. Inho leaned toward his captain. "Sir, are they charging a weapon?" "It appears so." They waited. The crystal glowed brighter, and brighter, and brighter. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. Wujin yawned loudly. Yuna elbowed him. 30 minutes. 40 minutes. Finally, after 45 minutes of charging, the weapon fired. A beam of blue light shot from the crystal and hit the asteroid. There was a flash. Smoke rose from the rock. When it cleared, they could see a large crack running down the middle of the asteroid. Thulaxis turned to the humans with obvious pride. "You see? The Stellar Lance can crack an asteroid with a single shot. Imagine what it would do to your ships." Silence. Complete silence from the human side. Manho was the first to break. He made a small choking sound. Then he turned around and walked away very quickly. From the corridor came the sound of loud, uncontrollable laughter. Taiho kept his face perfectly still. "Most impressive, Emperor. Truly remarkable." Wujin was biting his own hand so hard he might have drawn blood. Thulaxis smiled, pleased. "Now, human, show us your weapons. Let us see what pitiful technology your young species has developed." Taiho looked at Yuna. Yuna looked at Dawn. Dawn shrugged. "Are you certain, Emperor?" Taiho asked. "We do not wish to alarm you." Thulaxis laughed. It was a musical sound, like bells ringing. "Alarm us? We have seen 1,000 species and their weapons. Nothing can surprise us anymore." "Very well." Taiho spoke into his communicator. "Starbreaker, this is the captain. Please demonstrate our point defense system on the asteroid." The Starbreaker moved into position. It was not graceful like the Voron ships. It was blocky and gray, covered in antennas and armor plates. It looked like it had been built for war and nothing else. A small turret on the ship's side moved. It tracked the asteroid for about half a second. Then it fired. There was no charging time. No glowing crystals. Just a flash and a sound like thunder. The asteroid did not crack. It did not break. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment it was a cloud of dust spreading through space. The viewing platform went silent. Thulaxis stared at the empty space, where the asteroid had been. His 6 eyes were wide. His mouth hung open. The jewels on his robe clinked softly as his hands began to shake. "That," he whispered. "That was our point defense system," Somi explained helpfully. She had come along as part of the delegation. "We use it to destroy small debris that might hit the ship." "Debris," Thulaxis repeated. His voice sounded weak. Yuna nodded. "Small rocks. Space junk. That kind of thing." Wujin could not help himself. "It is basically our broom for cleaning." One of the Voron advisors fainted. He simply collapsed, his golden robes spreading around him like a puddle. Thulaxis gripped the railing of the platform. "Show me. Show me your actual weapons." Taiho hesitated. "Emperor, I do not think that is wise. I demand it. Show me what you use for real combat." Taiho sighed. He looked at his crew. Hana, the doctor, shook her head slowly. But there was no avoiding it now. "Starbreaker, please demonstrate a standard torpedo. Target the 4th moon in this system. Use minimal yield." Minimal yield. The crew had almost smiled at those words. the Starbreaker's side opened. A single torpedo launched. It flew silently through space, a small dark shape against the stars. It traveled for about 30 seconds before reaching the moon. A moon the size of a small country. The explosion was beautiful in a terrible way. A ball of fire, bright as a star, blooming in the darkness. When it faded, a chunk of the moon was simply gone. A piece the size of a major city had been ripped away, floating into space as burning debris. Minimal yield. No one on the Voron side moved. No one spoke. 2 more advisors fainted. Thulaxis himself had turned from pale blue to almost white. Taiho cleared his throat. That was a standard torpedo, Emperor. Yield was set to 5%. We have larger weapons, but I did not think a demonstration was necessary. Thulaxis finally found his voice. It came out as a whisper. 5%? Yes. Would you like to see full yield? No. The word came out as almost a scream. Thulaxis collected himself quickly, trying to look dignified. No, that will not be necessary. I have seen enough. He turned and walked away very quickly, his advisors rushing to follow. The Voron guards stared at the humans with something new in their eyes. It was not pride anymore. It was fear. Doan watched them go. That went well. Yuna shook her head. We may have overdone it. Taiho rubbed his forehead. The torpedo was their idea. I tried to warn them. From down the corridor, Minho finally returned. His eyes were red from laughing too hard. Did I miss anything? We blew up part of a moon, Wujin told him. Minho nodded as if this was completely normal. Oh, good. Did they faint again? 3 of them. Nice. The humans made their way back to their shuttle. Behind them, the Voron delegation was moving very fast toward their own ships. The transmission channels between the fleets had gone very quiet. Dr. Hana walked beside Taiho. Captain, I am worried. We may have traumatized an entire civilization. Taiho nodded slowly. I know, but they had to learn eventually. Better they learn from a demonstration than from a battle. Do you think they will still want to fight us? Taiho looked out at the Voron fleet. Those beautiful, fragile glass ships. Those decorative weapons. Those ceremonial soldiers. No, he said quietly. I do not think they will want to fight us at all. He was right. Within the hour, the Voron Emperor requested a new meeting. This time, he did not mention surrender. He wanted to talk about alliance. The stars were quiet that day. Captain Taiho stood on the bridge of the UESS Starbreaker, looking at the endless darkness of space through the main window. His ship was one of 12 vessels sent by Earth to explore the Andromeda sector. No human had ever traveled this far before. Taiho was a calm man. He had served in the military for 20 years before becoming a space captain. His hair was turning gray at the sides, and his face showed the lines of a man who had seen many difficult days. But his eyes were still sharp, still curious about what lay beyond the next star. Captain, we are entering the Voron system, said Selmi, the navigator. She was young, barely 30, with quick fingers that danced across her control panel. All sensors are active. Taiho nodded. Good. Keep us steady. Lieutenant Yuna walked up to stand beside him. She was his second in command, a woman known for never showing fear. Her black hair was tied back tight, and her uniform was always perfect. Some crew members joked that she could face an exploding sun and still look bored. Sir, I am picking up something strange, Yuna said, her voice flat as always. Multiple signals ahead. Hundreds of them. Taiho felt his stomach tighten. Ships? Yes, sir. Hundreds of ships. The bridge went silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing. Hundreds of ships meant only one thing. They were not alone out here. Chief Engineer Woojin came running up from the lower deck. He was a big man with grease on his hands and sweat on his forehead. "Captain, I heard the alarm." "What is happening?" "We have company," Taiho said simply. The main screen flickered, and then it showed them ships. So many ships that they filled the entire view. They surrounded the human fleet like a net closing around fish. There was no escape, but something was wrong. Taiho leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The ships were beautiful. They shimmered with lights of purple and gold. Their shapes were curved and elegant, like art pieces floating in space. They did not look like war machines. They looked like decorations. "Are those weapons?" Yuna asked, pointing at the small tubes on the sides of the alien vessels. Woojin scratched his head. "They look like party lights." A transmission came through. The screen changed to show a face that was definitely not human. The creature had 6 eyes arranged in a circle on its head. Its skin was pale blue, smooth like glass. It wore a golden robe covered in jewels. Behind it, other creatures moved around a bridge that looked more like a palace than a command center. "I am Emperor Thalaxis the Resplendent," the creature announced. Its voice was high and musical. "Ruler of the Galactic Empire of Voron. You have entered our territory without permission. You will surrender immediately or face destruction." Taiho opened his mouth to respond, but then he heard a sound behind him. It was soft at first. A small snort. Then a cough. He turned around. Woojin was covering his mouth with both hands. His shoulders were shaking. His face was turning red. He was trying very, very hard not to laugh. "Engineer," Taiho whispered sharply. "Control yourself." "I am sorry, Captain," Woojin choked out. "It is just their flagship." "Is it made of glass?" Yuna tilted her head, studying the alien ships more closely. Her eyebrows rose slightly, which for her was like screaming in shock. "He is right, sir. Their hull material appears to be crystalline, possibly decorative crystal." "Their weapons," Minho said from the weapons station. He was a quiet man, usually very serious. But now his voice was wobbling. "Sir, their weapons have a power output of... He stopped. His lips pressed together hard. "Of what, Officer Minho?" Taiho asked. "Of approximately 0.3 megajoules, sir." Minho made a strange squeaking sound. "Our coffee machine uses more power than that." Woojin lost control. He burst into laughter, loud and long. He grabbed the railing to keep himself standing. On the screen, Emperor Thalaxis looked confused. "Why is your crew making those sounds? Is this some kind of human weapon? A sonic attack?" Taiho raised his hand. No, Great Emperor. Please forgive us. We are simply adjusting to the situation." He shot a hard look at his crew. "Everyone, be professional." But it was too late. The laughter was spreading. Somi was giggling into her sleeve. Minho had tears running down his face. Even Yuna's lips were twitching, which was unheard of. Dr. Hannah came onto the bridge, holding a medical tablet. She was the ship's doctor, a gentle woman with a soft voice. "Captain, I heard strange noises. Is everyone okay?" She looked at the screen and saw the alien emperor. She looked at the alien ships. She looked back at her tablet. "Oh my," she said quietly. "Are those ships made of pretty glass?" Woojin howled even louder. Thulaxis was becoming angry now. All 6 of his eyes narrowed. "You dare laugh at the Voron Empire? We have ruled 1,000 star systems for 10,000 years. Our military might is unmatched." Taiho took a deep breath. He had to fix this situation. He was a diplomat as much as a captain. "Great Emperor, we mean no disrespect. We are simply overwhelmed by the beauty of your fleet. It is truly magnificent. This seemed to calm Thalaxis a little. Yes, it is magnificent. The finest craftsmen in the galaxy built these vessels. Each one is a work of art. Art, Wujin repeated under his breath. That is the perfect word for it. Yuna stepped on his foot. Hard. Thalaxis raised one long, thin arm. Now, humans, you will power down your ugly gray ships and prepare to be boarded. You will answer our questions and accept our judgment. Taiho looked at his crew. They looked back at him. The laughter had faded, but the smiles remained. Emperor Thalaxis, Taiho said carefully, we are peaceful explorers. We came here seeking knowledge and friendship. We have no wish for conflict. Then you will surrender, Thalaxis said. We would prefer to discuss terms first. Thalaxis made a gesture that might have been a frown. There are no terms. Surrender or be destroyed. Our weapons will tear your ships apart. From the weapons station, Minho made another squeaking sound. Taiho sighed. This was going to be a long day. Security Chief Doan entered the bridge. He was a large man with arms like tree trunks and a face that rarely smiled. He took one look at the alien fleet, one look at his laughing crewmates, and one look at the glittering Emperor on screen. Captain, he said in his deep voice, please tell me this is a joke. I wish it was. Chief, Taiho replied. Darwin studied the enemy ships for a long moment. Then, for the first time anyone could remember, he smiled. It was not a nice smile. Permission to speak freely, sir. Go ahead. If they shoot first, this will be the shortest battle in human history. Thalaxis heard this through the open channel. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly. What did he say? What does that mean? Taiho quickly muted the transmission. Everyone, listen to me. These people do not know what we are capable of. We need to be careful here. We could accidentally start an intergalactic war. Yuna nodded. Or accidentally end one before it begins. Exactly. So everyone stay calm, stay professional, and for the love of Earth, stop laughing. He unmuted the channel and smiled at the Emperor. Great Thalaxis, we accept your invitation to discuss peace. Perhaps we can meet and talk like civilized beings? Thalaxis considered this. Behind him, his advisors whispered to each other in their musical language. Very well, human. You may send a delegation to my flagship. But know this, Anitrix, and my fleet will crush you. Taiho nodded solemnly. Behind him, Wujing bit his fist to keep quiet. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent for 3 seconds. Then, everyone started laughing again. Glass ships, Minho eased. They built glass ships. Taiho rubbed his forehead. He had a feeling this first contact was going to be remembered for all the wrong reasons.